Our two churches in Southwestern Manitoba had been working on merging for about 2 years. We're small rural churches, and after 13 years of sharing a minister and worshiping together now and then, we thought that merging would give us some new possibilities. The energy from a new combination of people, from a slightly larger worshiping body, and the encouragement from more hands to contribute gave us the hope and the willingness to take the risk and join together. But it still took 2 years. 2 years of listening and careful meetings, and 2 years of apologizing that we didn't mean quite what it sounded like we meant at that last meeting. We had to deal too with the reality that one church was going to have to leave its home building with all the memories and loyalty and safety and love that it had held. But because we live in a rural area, it's not an uncommon thing for new couples to eventually move onto a family farm, with one half of the couple trying to make that new home and farmyard theirs while not offending a whole clan of new relatives, and the other person getting used to making their old home into a very different space. There's hope and love in that kind of situation, but there's a lot of adapting. And our two churches saw the similarities between this rural reality and moving into one chosen church building after a merger. People knew that there would be a lot of risk and hope, but a ton of forgiveness and patience involved. So our two churches planned very carefully for 2 years. It was too slow for many, but it was much too quick for others. And those 2 years were also tangled up with bad harvests and with some local community conflicts that almost derailed all our efforts. But this January, we made it to the stage where we had finally planned 2 separate farewell services, one for each church. We had chosen a date for our first merged worship service. We'd sent out those first invitations for early April, just before seeding on most farms would begin in earnest. And we were ready for 2 years of work to be finished, for this new church to be born and to start to figure itself out. But by early March, we knew it wasn't going to happen as the world shut down. So we ended up with one building sold, but not packed up, and 2 churches in something of an identity crisis. But if there's one thing farming country is used to, it's delays. It's frustrating to plan a whole year and then wait through a long, cold spring to get seed in. Last year in 2019, it was drought that delayed us. And that was followed by a month of rain during our harvest, followed by a snowstorm in October that buried mature crops under 3 feet of snow. In farming, hope and faith are not defined by things going according to plan, but by how you adapt and wait and take care of each other when things don't go according to plan. It's a spiritual discipline you develop in farming, adapting to circumstance and trying to be God people when your well thought out plans are derailed by hail or frost or flood or drought or broken machinery or 100 other things. It's a good spiritual definition of hope. It works just as well when a year begins in trouble, but then ends in an unexpected harvest so thick on the field that it feels like you can walk across the top of it when you're looking at it. And that happened only the year before last. And I heard one person call it Jesus wheat. It's celebrated, but with the same understated patience and caution as the bad years. Hope and faith and discipleship are just as clearly seen in how the unexpected joys and windfalls are handled just as much as the disasters. We are used to bringing both disaster and celebration into the church and giving them both to God and asking God to use them to spread the message of grace and mercy and love. So right now, our 2 churches that are really one church and that have always been part of a 2,000-year-old church are living in hope and faith and adapting. We're staying connected with morning prayer and with worship online on weekends and the online sharing of worship services and gardening plans and baby showers. We're looking forward to the late harvest of our plans to be together in one building. And we are hoping to worship together this year as one body and in one place And we have already said it will be so good to get together and see each other's faces in the foyer. And maybe, just maybe, we will appreciate it in a way we wouldn't have before.